kick off today's blab. I'd like to welcome everyone to Blabbing Business. I'm Lisa Cresswell Busby. We're joined by Shawn Sandy with the Selling Agency, and our third wise woman who usually joins us weekly on Blabbing Business is unfortunately dealing with the stomach bug. So we have excused Ms. Jana Herbison today, and she is with J. Herbison Communications, though, and hopefully she will be back next week with us. So today's subject is who are you talking to? And I've asked, are you in real mode or are you in robot mode? We kind of based today's subject on a blog that Shawn wrote. It's on the Selling Agency's website. But this applies through it's not only through selling necessarily, but it can apply to a lot of the different sections of business. And I think it's very important for anybody who touches business, who touches customers, and who has to make decisions for their business.
Yeah, I agree. It's funny because with all this technology and automation and processes and stuff, sometimes we forget that technology, specifically digital technology, is there to actually bring people closer to us, not to push them away. How many times have you called someplace and you get a horrible phone tree? You don't feel like that business is wanting to bring you closer to them. They're actually putting more distance between you and real live human interaction. However, social media, when you have a good experience, when you tweet your airline because something's happened and they respond to you, that's bringing people closer to you. And so, I got kind of inspired and thought, especially on the sales end too, we talk about, I help my clients build processes and pipelines, and, we work with CRMs to help, make sure we're hitting all the measurements and milestones and prompting action. But, at the end of the day, we're not selling to robots. We're selling to real people, humans who are irrational and who make decisions sometimes, that don't necessarily fit in this nice, neat little funnel. But so we really should talk to people like they're humans and try to have, even in marketing and social selling, where you're using technology to distribute your message to many, but try to have these one-on-one experiences and provide one-on-one experiences with people.
Right. And it's funny that you mentioned the problems when you call a business and it's what I call their phone purgatory. It's like a never ending loop of buttons to push and automated, responses. And so many times they don't even match what you're trying to resolve and the problem. And there's nobody real to talk to. And I think that's so true. And I know I see it on social media a lot, with people who, especially when they have problems with the business, and they can't get through to a real person to help them resolve those issues. So what do, man? They jump on social media. They jump on Facebook or Twitter, especially Twitter. Yeah. And they start putting it out there. And it's, unfortunately for the business, it's not only out there for their people to deal with. Everybody is seeing it. And it starts a crisis a little bit of reputation management.
Right.
And then if the business doesn't respond or acknowledge what's out there, that's even worse, and so if they don't even have a presence on social media, God forbid, I'd love to help them, but it's, they can't even deal with it if they're not there and they don't even know who's talking about them. But the phone thing, that's phone purgatory is one of my personal pet peeves.
Yes. I totally understand and try to strike this balance of creating processes and systems so that you have information, flowing the right channels, you have the right people handling the right questions and things like that. But, even some of, I think this was an online photo printing company. I won't tell you which one it is, but, they want to dial you down into just the right channel so that they can help you in just the right way. But, sometimes you don't know how you need to be helped. Everyone's, real big now just to have all the frequently asked questions or the forums to answer your questions. And I understand that there's a wealth of information there, but if I don't know how I need to be helped, I want a person who can answer that. So you have to meet people where they are, and it's really important to provide all those things, but give people an out, give them a way to actually contact you and to have some of that human contact to solve a very human problem, which is, I don't know what kind of help I need.
Right. Which goes back to, I know the story that you've talked about with the rope. Again, I think you can apply that, to this too, and just the human nature of sometimes what's in our heads that we think is going to apply to a customer is not what's in the customer's heads or their needs at all. Do you want to share the rope story again?
Sure. So it's a story I tell about going to Home Depot. I wanted to build a rope swing. My husband was gone on a ski trip, and he had kind of built something, and it really didn't work. And so we have these beautiful big oak trees in the front of our yard, and I wanted to build a rope swing. I actually built two because my kids wanted one, and I wanted one. So I go to Home Depot, and I walk through the door, and I have, very intent and focused and on what I want. And so, this big burly guy comes up to me in his orange apron, and he says, how can I help you? And I said, I need some rope. And I do this when I'm coaching sales teams or operations teams. I ask people, I say, what do you think was the next question? He asked me, and most people say, what kind of rope do you need? They think that he's asking me about the details of it so he can take me to the right rope. But actually, this guy's name was Earl, and I love Earl. He said, what are you going to do with the rope? Because he wanted to get the big picture. He wanted to share the overall picture of what I was trying to accomplish so that he could, direct me to the exact kind of rope that I needed. He has some expertise and experience with that, but also understand the context of where my rope fit into the big plan. So, I left with the right rope, because if I'd said I need a poly braided, synthetic fiber rope, he would have taken me that and I would have left, and that's fine. But instead I said, Earl, I'm trying to build a rope swing. And so he walked through the project with me and helped me figure out which boards I needed. And I have the right drill bit to drill the right hole in it, and, the washers I needed. And so he helped me solve the bigger problem, which did a couple things. Where do you think I go when I need to solve a problem that I don't know all the pieces to? I look for Earl. One, I go to Home Depot. And two, I go to Earl. Three, I've told this story many, many times, and it has good favor and, good advocacy for Home Depot. So there's something in their training where they ask, they have their employees ask, where does what this person is asking for solve the bigger problem? It's a training that reflects that the real people that they're serving, not just, okay, if they give you this answer, then you take them to this aisle. It's actually about this one-on-one experience, which is what buying is, which is what selling is. We forget that there are real people and not just buyers or buyer personas that we're actually selling to and marketing to. Right.
And I know, you talk about not only the personas, but we have to remember, that each individual, not the groups that they may fall under necessarily. Right. And, I'm always telling people too that social media, and just because you're utilizing social media marketing for your business, it does not by any means take the place of hitting the pavement, shaking those hands, making eye-to-eye contact. It's a place to open doors, to get exposure, to build relationships. It does not take the place.
No, absolutely not. And it's funny because we just really struggle with moderation in this country. Moderation of anything from food to technology to television to guns to anything. We just struggle with moderation in general. So we think that, social media in particular is going to be this silver bullet, that this is the one, okay, we can stop doing everything else. but it's not. It's a silver lining. I like to say it's not the silver bullet to solve all your problems, but it's a silver lining that it is a way for you to understand exactly what your customers are talking about and exactly how they want to be treated, exactly what their concerns are. And you can have those direct conversations with them if you apply. But it is a piece of the puzzle. Like you said, you still have to market, you still have to sell, you still have to, provide excellent customer experiences. It's just a really big piece of the puzzle.
Right. It's a tool. It's a good tool to have in your tool bag and to utilize, and knowing how to do that. Of course, is my argument about why you need to hire a professional to help you. But it's not just pushing information out there, and it's not, again, pushing information in a robot sense. You have to think about the individuals that you're working with, and you have to think about what are their needs. Do you need to educate them? Do you need to just be there to listen to them? All of the above, perhaps. But you have to remember that you're not just utilizing technology for technology's sake.
Yeah.
You're talking to humans.
With I'm sorry, go ahead.
Humans have emotions too. And it's funny how on social media that the emoticons are really taking precedence, and it's kind of reshaping language in a way. There's been a few articles recently about that. And there's one social media site that was created last year, I think, and I can't remember the name of it because it's one way down low that I'm just kind of watching to see what happens. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit like Twitter, but it's all emoticons. There's no words, no letters, nothing else. So it'll be interesting.
I don't know how I feel about that.
I don't know how it will be successful, honestly, but it's one of those interesting experiments online to watch. Mm-hmm. But I think you have to remember that people have feelings and emotions, and they go through mood swings. And I see that with customer care too. And again, it boils down to so many times when people are frustrated, they just want to be listened to. They want to be heard. They want to talk it out and be listened to, and know that somebody cares, know that the business that they're working with cares.
Yeah. And, it's funny because I've sold a lot of different things. And one of the things that I've sold, I worked for Office Max in their business-to-business print division, and I sold to large accounts. I built large accounts. And so what was interesting is it doesn't get much more, commoditized than ink on paper. People think, oh, business cards, I can get them for a cheaper price or whatever. But, I always walked outside of that commodity mindset and understood that it may just be a business card to you, but to someone else, it is their communication, it's their style. Or, I brought on a lot of banks and worked with a lot of hospitals. And in the banking industry, updating the training so it's compliant, that was someone's job. It was someone's job that they would be in a lot of trouble if the right communication didn't get in someone else's hands. So it doesn't really matter what you're selling, whether if you're selling, tractors, there's someone who's going to be driving that tractor to, harvest crops that feed his family, that feed other families. There's always someone human at the end of every transaction. So if you treat it like it's just a transaction, or you treat people like they're just a transaction, you're missing so much. You're just really missing the point of, why people need things. And if it were just a transaction, then we wouldn't also need salespeople.
Right. And that's one thing. I mean, we don't ever need to take the people out of the sales process, I don't think. And that's another thing that, technology can enhance and help, but it's a relationship business. I mean, I don't know too many businesses that aren't a relationship business. We like dealing with each other for the most part. So, you want to, again, remember the people, that they have emotions, they have real feelings, find out what's important to them. What are your strategies that you recommend for maybe, when you come across a longer sales cycle than you would anticipate, and that buyer is on a different calendar than maybe you would like for them to be.
Right.
What do you suggest, to help overcome those issues?
Well, really great salespeople historically, and even now with all the changes in technology and stuff, they really understand the reality and context of their buyer. In most business to business sales decisions right now, there are at least 5 people involved with the decision-making process. And that's kind of the formal decision-making process. There's actually also informal decision makers. How does HR and accounting play into the decision-making process? If, Tina in accounting can't get her statements or the POs the right way, she may sink your deal. So you have to really understand and how people are making decisions, who is involved in that, what their previous experiences have been. If they're not on your timetable, find out why. What is their timetable? Is it a lot of times salespeople get frustrated because they're not getting response back from their buyers. Things are going great, and then poof, something disappeared. Well, it could be that the priorities in their organization shifted, and you are not a priority right now. There may not be anything you can do to make your product or service a priority, but you can understand what that is, and you have to do that by asking questions, by getting involved in understanding what their everyday reality is. What is the context of how your product or service fits into the big picture? So you really do have to build relationships. That one buyer can't be shoved into your sales process because he's in a specific industry and he has a specific title. That's, sales operations and sales leaders really kind of gloss over that. Well, here's our pipeline. Here's the steps of our pipeline. Well, the pipeline and the funnel is actually kind of it's not foolish, but it's silly to think that people, stay working down on this one funnel until they either exit the funnel or make a decision. It's actually really fluid. People may come in and out of the funnel, especially if as buyers do now, they're developing their own decision-making criteria, and they're the ones deciding what's important and how to make those decisions. So having a relationship with them and really studying and understanding how does this decision to buy something fit in their big picture goals? How does this decision to buy something make them more money, help them get more customers? What does this look like? And it is really driven by the relationship and understanding that one organization, their paradigm, their decision-making process, who's involved, who's going to be a roadblock, all those things. Great salespeople dig in, and you can't just expect people to follow along, and, it's not about you.
Right. And and that's the same thing. People expect, or some people, not all people. There's the robot term right there.
Right.
I have run across, working, and sometimes clients will think they'll get on social media, or they add the social media component, to their plan and their process, mm-hmm. and that it's going to speed up things immediately, Right. Sometimes it works that way. Sometimes it may be the tipping point for mm-hmm. somebody who you've already been working with. Right. Sometimes, it still takes longer. It's still about building that relationship. And social media, when you don't evoke the robots, which I never am an advocate for, real people, real time, it's a slow process. It's a slow, continuous, be there, be real process.
Well, yeah, there's a company called MarketBridge, and they did a lot of research. And this is a statistic that scares the pants off of sales directors and sales leaders when I tell them. And it's the buying process is 22% longer than what it was just 5 years ago. A fifth longer than what it was just 5 years ago. Wow. And that is largely to do with the buyer controls their own journey. They can go and find out pretty much anything they want about this decision-making process. They can find out the terms of sale. They can find out who the seller is. They can find out reviews, ratings. They source information from other buyers. So what that is, and you've probably seen this information where they say buyers approximately 2/3 through their buying journey before they ever contact a seller. Yep. So what this means for the salesperson and why social media in particular is so important is you've got to be a part of someone's decision-making criteria before they actually make the decision. So you've got to figure out a way to get into that early 2/3. And so being visible, vocal, and valuable is all about what we're talking about. It's, it's finding the buyers or finding the people who might make those decisions and helping them understand what it's like to do business with you. You've got to give them that preview. And that is not something you can automate. It's got to be, let's create these one-on-one connections. Let me share with you what we're doing. Let me share with you the philosophy. Let me share with you why I work for this company and why I think people need and their lives can be changed with our products or services. So it's a lot more than what it used to be, just showing up and spewing, features, benefits, that kind of thing. It's very different than what it used to be. But, social media is the gift where you can actually do that. You can get into the early decision-making criteria.
Yes, and it's, a lot of there's some business owners too that would like to stick their heads in the sand about all this and the new documentation and studies and just ignore it and want to go back, the way it was 20 years ago. But the thing is, it's not going to happen, and it can't happen. No. Everybody else is moving forward, whether you want to ignore it or not. And so you might as well embrace it. And if you're not the one in your company, to be that passionate team member, the village that helps to build your brand. And as I speak across social media sites, but find those people that you work with who are passionate and who want to embrace and contribute toward that, because it not only helps you or your one salesperson or whatever you have, it builds the company brand, as a whole, because the company, although it may be seen in this umbrella of robotic or technology or whatever, it's made up of individual people. And customers like to see that personality, come through too. Yeah.
Well, and it's really interesting. So with the selling agency, our clients tend to be highly commoditized, highly competitive, traditional and mature industries. And so they're not people that are leveraging a lot of technology in their sales or marketing efforts. Many of them don't even have a sales department or a marketing department. You're talking about people who started a business because they already had a client base, and now they're kind of looking around. And in those same industries, the barriers to entry are usually much lower now. So they're seeing more competition pop up, and that is leveraging technology, not only in, a manufacturing process or an operations process, but they're leveraging technology and digital methods to reach customers, communicate with them. So, at first there's a lot of pushback I don't know why I love this challenge, but I just do. There's a lot of pushback, but what I want to say is, okay, tell me how you order a pizza. And they might say, well, I use my phone. Okay. Or I use an app for that. I started asking them a lot of questions about how, if you're going to go to Houston, how would you find a hotel? How would you find a great place to eat? And what we've really discovered is that we all act like modern buyers. We all use the tools and resources to be modern buyers, but then we turn right back around and start, hammering away with a chisel and a tablet when it comes to selling. So it's actually a physical exercise I use with those business owners when we're talking about that, is to demonstrate buying has changed. You do it, but there's just some fear in turning around and using those same techniques when it comes to selling and those traditional mature spaces. But we all act like modern buyers. We just have to turn that right back around and act like modern sellers, because until the internet, and especially until social media, much of the ways we've sold has not changed in 100 years. Yeah,
that's true. And I mean, I come to think about it, it was a trade process, but it still all comes back to the relationship, right? And the person-to-person relationship. But I love the story that you just used too, about you kind of reverse the roles. And there was another last week before, whenever it was the customer experience week. And so I was listening to somebody, one of the CX pros, talk about one of the things that her company did, which just fascinated me. I love this visual. They would put their people. She was in research and development, so she wasn't even dealing directly with their customers. But they finally figured out, again, the breaking down of the silos, to use the comments that were coming through on social channels, the calls that were coming through on their phone lines from customers about either suggestions or problems they had or whatever. They would use all that information in research and development to do better, to make better products. But then they would use their own people and put them through a battery of challenges, such as put sunscreen on a 2-year-old. How does that work out for you? Have men walk around in high heels with inserts. How do those inserts feel all day in your high heels, None? Right. It was very real, hands-on, but it puts you in the seat of your customer. And I think that's always a good thing, is to just turn the tables around. Remember, how are they viewing you? What are they seeing? What is their experience? And that crosses the salespeople that they're dealing with who are representing you. It crosses the social media sight lines and the barriers there. What are they seeing? Right. What's your business voice that they're listening to or engaging with? Hopefully they're talking back to you, and there's some exchange of information, ideas, questions, there. So I think the role reversal is real important too.
Yeah, that's good points. I want to hear more about that company and just figure out, do they have people bring in their 2-year-olds and say, okay, we need a crop of 2-year-olds to slather and smother with sunscreen?
Yes, I don't know where the 2-year-olds came from. I don't know whose they were. My guess would be that they would be related to somebody within the company, but not the actual 2-year-olds belonging to the. I would love the fact. I like to imagine that it wasn't even parents who were trying to do this, because I think that's a challenge.
Oh yeah, we've got it down.
Yeah, people don't realize how difficult that can be if you have a squirmy baby who doesn't like being, lathered on with anything.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well,
anyway.
And what you're really talking about in the tip of that iceberg is emotional intelligence, and that's one of the key factors now to selling, marketing and selling and helping people buy you is being emotionally intelligent. And empathy is I think the biggest trigger there is empathy, putting yourself in someone else's shoes and understanding, the context, the reality, and how you fit into the context of their reality. Because it's important that people know, like, and trust you to buy you, but let's be real, it's not about you. It never has been, never will be. If I'm going to buy something from you, it's about me. What do I need? Why do I need it? How do I feel about it? That kind of stuff.
Yeah. How are you going to help me? What have you done for me lately?
Miss Janet.
But, I will say, I guess the takeaways, if we could leave people with the most important takeaways when you're remembering who are you talking to, is to be real, to really be there, to remember that everybody's needs are different. And every now and then stop, take a breath, and remember what it's like to be on the other side. Right.
Yeah. I would just add to that, what you do and what you have to offer does and can matter to one person. Marketing might be one to many, but selling and buying is an individual experience. You might be selling, to 5 people in one given day or 20 people in a day. For me, I'm the only one that matters. I don't care about the other people. So when you sell to me, I want to know how this impacts me, my goals, my objectives. I don't care about anything else, nor should I, nor am I required to.
Right. So remember, when you're going in, say, hopefully to close a deal or to meet with either a client or prospective client, make it matter to what's most important to them.
Absolutely.
Right? Not what's most important to who you met with yesterday or who you might meet with tomorrow.
Or what you presume is important to them. That's a big thing too, is you can't presume to know what's important to them. Just another example I'll give real quickly is I wrote a blog about value is subjective. Value is in the eye of the beholder. I tell a story about going to a meeting, and it was a big meeting. I'd waited a long time to get this buyer, and I got my suit on, like my power suit, right? And I stepped in and pulled out the inseam of my pants, the cuff at the bottom. So the meeting was like I need to leave for the meeting in 10 minutes. I couldn't exactly go home and change. I tried taping it. That didn't work. I tried, my crappy little stapler on my desk and it didn't work. And so like, well, crap. So I went to my coworker's office and he had one of those big heavy metal staplers. And so I stapled my pants and it worked beautifully. Went on, had a successful meeting. So, at the end of the day, if say someone came to sell me that stapler, they could read all the 5 things on the box, all those attributes that they think are important on the box. But my value in that stapler was it could hem my pants in a pinch like nothing else. You don't presume to know what I value about something. Ask me, what do you need in a stapler? And I'd say, you know what? I need a stapler that's going to hem my pants in a pinch. And that's what's important to me. Then maybe the other things fall in. But if you presume to know what's important to someone where you skip asking that, where you just lump that person in the same category as everyone else, like robots, then you're missing a lot of the big picture. You're missing the opportunity to really provide, the value that's important specifically to them. Right.
Well, on that note, unless you have any other closing thoughts
or
anything to add. Well, I love that story, which we're going to have to talk about another day too, right. About, the education that goes on in business, because sometimes the clients don't even know what they need,
right,
until they realize that they need it. So right. I bet you never would have thought about shopping for a stapler to hem your clothes before you needed it.
No, I just needed something to staple papers.
Sometimes the client doesn't even know the possibilities. But anyway, but I'd like to thank everybody who joined us online for this week's Live Business. And thank you, Shawn. And we will be back next Thursday at 12:30.
Yep. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.